Mr. and Mrs. Steeler fans and all the ships at sea, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Alongside with me is Tony Defeo. We are both from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and your BTSC family of podcasts. We've been doing this together for a few years now. Tony, happy Labor Day, my friend. I hope you have had a fantastic weekend, a long, relaxing weekend with your friends and family.
Same with you, Bryan. Happy Labor Day. I hope everybody out there is having a great Labor Day. And we're 1 week away from some Steelers football.
1 week. Do you believe that? We keep on talking about this being the longest off season ever. And it's really not. It's really the same. But when you don't have mini camp in there and when you don't have news and, everything's been kind of going on schedule as far as the time frame. They were going to play this weekend regardless of COVID, but when you just don't have that mini camp and there's all these weeks with zero news whatsoever, you're just like, now we're back 1 week away. And not only 1 week away, Tony, we've got football 3 days from now.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, the NFL got lucky other than as far as the regular season preserving everything other than no preseason and no fans. But when you're always being told you're going down the wrong way in Giant Eagle, it makes the off season a bit longer. But yes, absolutely.
Does that happen to you a lot?
I've heard it happen to other people. I've always been vigilant, I've always paid attention, but other people I usually hear it once a week. But anyway, 3 days from now, the Texans and the Chiefs, I can't wait. I'm really going to be glued to the TV screen on Thursday night.
You're going down the wrong aisle here at Giant Eagle.
That's right.
Giant Eagle. I miss Giant Eagle. That was for years. We got a Giant Eagle in Johnstown in 1983, and we've had it ever since. And that was my place, man. I went there all the time.
Right.
Wow. Gosh.
Well, if you were here, you wouldn't have to go far to fall into one because they're everywhere.
They're like a Starbucks in New York City. Every corner, there's a Giant Eagle.
Right.
Love it. So, and they always have cool Steeler stuff there. So I like it. So when I go to Johnstown, which is not as often anymore, but I go there and I look at all the Steeler stuff they have there and I'm like, this is home. Mm-hmm. So great. And hey, we've got a lot of people in the live chat hanging out with us. We've had a lot of action this weekend. I feel like you guys are going to get tired of me because I was on twice yesterday. I was on the day before because, man, and people came out in droves because they're dying for Steeler news and they're dying for Steeler talk. And that roster special that we had on Saturday was a lot of fun. And we had over 215 in the live chat because they were there to talk roster. And then I'm thinking, guys, I'm talking to Jeff and Dave and we're having our little summit meeting. I'm like, I want to go on again on Sunday because we need to talk about the practice squad. And nobody cares about the practice squad. Tony, they care about the practice squad. We had close to 150 in the live chat, and it was awesome.
Insatiable.
And we had great news with the signings of Sean Davis and also the signing of Joshua Dobbs. Former faces, familiar faces coming back, and we're here, and I love it. And now I lost my Duck jersey, but I got my Sean Davis jersey back. So that's good. So I could wear my Sean Davis jersey again. And look, you might not love him. There was some love and hate, and Steakmaster J says the Sean Davis haters are crying right now. And here's the thing about it. You got to love him as a depth piece because if something happens to Minka or something happens to, even just for a week, something happens to Terrell Edmonds, even just for a week, you got a guy that has a lot of starting experience, knows this defense. And a lot of people think, well, he went and came back. No, he was with the team last year. He didn't play since week 2, but he was with the team. And so he was gone for an off season. Right. So if you look at the back of his his football card and the Pro Football Reference, it's never really going to say Washington down on the stat list. It's just going to be Pittsburgh every single year until he leaves again. But as a depth piece, that's perfect. And, you get an upgrade with Josh Dobbs, too. And you get an upgrade in practice when you have more of the mobile quarterbacks.
Right.
He would be very good for practice. If
Right.
you're a Duck Hodges fan, don't be surprised if he is back within a few hours. You might wake up tomorrow and find out that Duck Hodges is back on the practice squad on this team, because they went ahead and they added one guy today. Wendell Smallwood is back. He is on the practice squad now, too. So they have one more spot on the practice squad, and everybody's wondering, why didn't they announce this? Well, probably the reason that it was not announced, Tony, was because Duck hasn't cleared waivers. So how comfortable are you with a guy that has a lot of starting experience after last year on your practice squad?
I mean, when it comes to the backup quarterbacks, I mean, the more you can have on your roster, the better. I mean, the more guys you can evaluate in practice, the better, especially when they're young and you're trying to find out some things. I mean, one of the things I was wondering about was Mason Rudolph and how he would progress this training camp after all the experience he had last year, and you didn't hear a whole heck of a lot about him. So, there could be a reason why they brought back Joshua Dobbs, and Joshua Dobbs is as far as his physical skills, he's an upgrade over Duck Hodges. He has a better arm. He's more athletic. But then again, Hodges had a lot of experience last year. So you get to, if he does clear waivers and he does make it to the practice squad, there's a guy that you have another year to evaluate. So I think I think they're in good shape in that regard.
Well, let's explore that more, because I agree with everything that you said, and there's a little bit that I disagree on. And let me go with the disagreement first, Tony. And it's simple. The only thing that I really am going to disagree with you on here is the fact that the Steelers controlled the narrative, just like in up north. Bill Belichick controlled the narrative. This was their dream, and you and I have talked about this. The fact that these coaches don't have to say anything. I don't know if we were on the other day. I don't think we talked about this the other day, but I thought it was really interesting. They had a televised practice for the Dallas Cowboys last week, or maybe last Saturday, and Mike McCarthy put them out there with no numbers whatsoever. And so nobody knows who these guys were, so they couldn't go and grab these guys. So other teams couldn't grab them. The Steelers made an interesting roster move with James Pierre. They believe so much in the 6'2" cornerback from Florida Atlantic that they are not going to put him on the practice squad. So they want to protect this guy. It's almost, and I was saying this to Dave Schofield the other day, it's almost like baseball's version of, you're a big baseball guy. What was it? The Rule 5 draft?
Yes.
Remember? Okay. So explain that to me. What, they had to keep them on the roster for the whole year?
They had to keep him on the roster the whole year, and if they decided that they want to send him down to the minors, he had to clear waivers. Otherwise, the other team could claim him. The team that they drafted him from could claim him. The one year when the Pirates were in the middle of their divisional run in the early 90s, they did that with a relief pitcher, and they tried their best to keep him on the roster and and not expose him, but they just couldn't. And eventually, they had to send him back to the other team.
So that's kind of that's what this reminds me of, what they're doing with James Pierre, because they really believe in this guy, and you can't hide everybody.
Right.
So, Buzz gets out, but the reason I'm bringing that whole thing up is I don't really think that there's a problem with Mason Rudolph. I just feel that they feel that Dobbs is an upgrade, just like Donald Nolan says Dobbs says he's not an upgrade over Duck.
Right.
Last year at this time, I was the one saying, you keep Duck, you've seen what you can of Dobbs. Now I'm doing a little bit of a 180, because now I'm saying, look, Dobbs knows this. He's a very smart guy. He knows this system. We've seen some flashes from him, what he could do. We saw some bad flashes in that Oakland Raiders game in 2018, but I feel like he has a stronger arm. And I just feel like he is better to have in there. What are your feelings on Dobbs coming back over Duck?
I think it's I'm fine with it. I mean, I think when you're dealing with these young guys, these young quarterbacks, you just don't know how they're going to progress from year to year. And it's as we always say, when you get down to the third string quarterback, you're probably going to be in trouble anyway. So you might as well see what you have in this guy and see how he's progressed. I realize he didn't make the Jaguars team, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So you get him back in here. He's been in your system for a few years prior to last year. You bring him back. And as you said, he could provide an athletic quarterback for the defense to prepare against during the regular season. People automatically think about Lamar Jackson, but you also have, Baker Mayfield's really athletic. Josh Allen, who they're going to have to face, is a really athletic quarterback. Deshaun Watson. So they're going to have a lot of those kind of RPO type quarterbacks that they're going to be facing this year, and Josh Dobbs gives them somebody to practice against. So from that standpoint alone, it's a valuable guy to have on your roster. And again, I mean, I don't know, as far as Mason Rudolph, I don't know why they would be secretive about him. I think that would be a boost for his confidence and the fan base's confidence if word got out that he was performing really well at training camp. But I think it just adds another piece to the quarterback room that possibly could develop into something more than what they have right now.
Well, there's one more thing that I want to talk about before we get into the subject of the show, but I'm going to bring up Ryan Kellerman. We shouldn't see either Dobbs or Duck. If we do, we are in big trouble again. And he capitalized BIG. Now, I want everybody to remember that comment because that's going to lead into what we're going to talk about on this show in just a few minutes. But before I get started with that, Tony, you and I are big pop culture guys. So we go back to, if you're like me, and I'm pretty sure you are, because you like television.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 80s, just like I did. Did you have a subscription to the TV Guide?
I didn't personally, but I know my oh yeah, you mean my family? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. We got that every week.
So remember when the thick one would come, the new fall season, and they would preview all the old shows and just all the brand new shows, and they would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you're like, yes,
right.
Lonnie Anderson has a new show with two old men.
Remember the old days when you had to wait to watch a show? I couldn't do that now. I can't even watch it. I can't even wait a day to watch a show, let alone a week.
Yeah, it's yes, progress is the root of all evil. My grandmother is probably so confused right now if she would come back. Can you imagine if somebody came back from like just 30 years away, if they were like locked away and they come and they're like, hey, where's the TV Guide with the new fall schedule? I'm like, well, that show's on there's a good show on Netflix or on Hulu. Like, what is that? So the reason I'm bringing that up is, Tony, we've got a new fall schedule here at BTSC. And
very exciting.
I don't know if you've seen the sneak peek for it, but we are going to do a lot of the shows the same, but we're going to move some stuff around. Remember the days when you were used to Night Court on Thursday night? All of a sudden, wait, it's on Wednesday night now. Wait, they moved Frasier. Frasier's now on Tuesdays. What's going on? So now we're kind of doing a little bit of that. Now, yesterday was the last Tales from 2 a.m. until we go back on it's on hiatus right now until we go back to the when the regular season's over, and I'm hoping we go back to the Hangover in the middle of February. That's what I'm hoping. Excuse me, not the Hangover. Excuse me. We go back to the what show was I just talking about? My show, Tales from 2 a.m. So if I go to the Hangover, I apologize. Yesterday was the last Tales from 2 a.m. This is the last Q&A. Because this show becomes the Hangover again.
Right.
It's going to be, we're still going to answer your questions. But what we're going to do is we're going to be having that good hangover or bad hangover after the Steelers games. So we're going to be doing some stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty fun. We'll be having a pregame show this year, Tony. That's going to be happening on Saturday evenings, leading up into the game. So you can check out the pregame show and then you can check it out. It's going to be checking out on our podcast platform. That'll be great. You'll still see Steelers Brunch with Tony on Saturdays. That's going to still be a YouTube show as well. But if we go down the list, we're going to have AM shows, just like we started in August. But we're going to have some PM shows too, Tony. So that's pretty exciting. So on Monday through Friday, you're going to have Monday, you're going to have the post-game show. That's going to continue. That'll be around Monday morning, that post-game show that will be on YouTube, but then we'll also have it on the podcast platform, because you're going to want to, if you miss the post-game show, you're going to want to check it out. On Tuesday, the live mic. Live mic's moving from Friday to Tuesday. On Wednesday, it's Let's Ride. On Thursday, the Steelers Stat Geek stays right where it is. And Friday, it's Let's Ride. And Saturday at 5 a.m. will be Touchdown Under, our boys from Australia. And on noon, we're going to have most of our YouTube shows will be over on the podcast platform. Let's Ride will move to Monday at noon, though, just because we have the post-game show going on. Remember the show on Wednesday nights, Beck and Black? It's getting a new name. It's going to be called Know Your Enemy, like the Green Day song, Tony. You're a Green Day fan, right?
Sort of. Not much anymore. I was into their one album, but their comeback album in 03, but that's pretty much it.
I love them. I saw American Idiot on Broadway. Well, the touring show. Love those guys. I've been a fan of those guys for about 25 years now. Can't believe it's been that long. But so Know Your Enemy. It's not going to be a show about Green Day. Michael and Jeffrey aren't going to be talking about Billy Joe Armstrong and the two other fellas. What they're going to be talking about is this week they are going to have somebody from the New York Giants, maybe SB Nation, a columnist from the Giants that covers them. I know the second week already we have somebody from the Denver Broncos from Mile High Report from SB Nation. So they're going to be talking to the enemy. And, they're friendly enemies, but the Giants are going to be our enemy next week at this time. So there you go. So you'll find out more about the other team and how they match up with the Steelers. We're still going to have the Steelers preview. Like we said, we're going to have Steelers Brunch with Tony. This show's The Hangover. The Scobro show is still going to be there as well. Now, you're asking about the PM shows, Tony. I know this is what you're wondering, what's going to be going on. Monday nights on the podcast platform will be the retro show. So what's going to happen today? There's not going to be a retro show tomorrow, but there will be a retro show next week. And it's going to be a really good one too. We're going to go back to 1995 with that. So that'll be an opportunity to check out starting Monday night on the platform. I know you're thinking, wait a second, the Steelers game is going to be on. But no, it'll show up there in the evening for the Steeler game, and then after you get all your Steeler news, if you want to check out the retro show. But every week there won't be a Steeler game on Monday night, not until December 21st again, Tony. Then on Tuesday's a big day in Steeler Nation because Mike Tomlin does his press conference in the afternoon. Jeff Hartman is going to take Tuesday through Friday. On Tuesday, he's going to do the Tomlin presser wrap up, and then Wednesday through Friday, he's going to do an injury report. So there's going to be shows just like you had the podcast report. Excuse me, not the podcast report. Just like you had the training camp report, you're going to have those shows. And then the pregame show's going to be coming up on Saturday night. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for this to be your non-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steeler news, Pittsburgh Steeler up-to-date happenings, all this other stuff. And Donald Nolan, I haven't been looking at the live chat because I was actually looking at the schedule. Trey Cool and Mike Dirnt. I knew Trey Cool, but I couldn't remember Mike Dirnt. My best friend actually recorded his album next to Green Day when they were recording the one with I forget what it was called, Nimrod. They were recording Nimrod, and he was a drummer, so he became friends with Trey Cool. Really interesting. So Tony, pretty exciting stuff, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but it shows you the kind of fan base that we have and the kind of Steelers fans we have that they just can't get enough. They can't get enough of the Steelers. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, so many people in the live chat for the cut down show and the practice squad show. So yeah, it's going to be if you're looking for Steelers content, we're going to have it for you each and every day.
Yes, we will. And we're going to have more when we come back right after this. But before we do that, Snowman puts in $5 in the tip jar, wants to talk about a great base Steeler that we lost yesterday. Hey, we're just not talking about Steelers. Lou Brock was amazing. We lost Tom Seaver earlier in the week. Lou Brock yesterday passed away at the age of 81. Great base Steeler. Thanks for the $5 putting the tip jar, Snowman.
Absolutely.
We have lost a lot of greats this year, whether it be in entertainment or whether it be in sports. So, please rest in peace, the great Lou Brock. So we're going to be back right after this, Tony. We're going to just take a quick break, and we're going to come back on YouTube, just like we normally do. But if you're listening to this, go ahead and download number 2 for the Q&A, and we're going to take a quick break. Welcome back, Steeler Nation. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis, along with Tony Defeo. And this is Q&A part 2, the Steelers Q&A, where we talk to you. We throw out a question, and then we let you ask all kinds of questions as your own, but you help us answer this burning question that we have here. And the burning question here is about the Steelers and also about their chances if they stay injury-free. So, Tony, I'm going to ask you this question. We heard earlier on the live chat, it was brought up that if something happens that Duck or Dobbs is playing this year, then it's a lost year.
Right.
And that kind of happened last year a little bit, not with Dobbs, but with Duck and with Mason. So if the Steelers go completely injury-free, Tony, are they Super Bowl contenders this year?
I've been beating that drum all off season. I think obviously it's a cliche and it's so obvious, but Ben being back and being healthy and being as close to old Ben as possible, that just makes everything else go for that offense. And we know what kind of defense that they have. It's they're coming off one of their best defensive years in recent memory. And I can't imagine there being a dramatic drop off. So absolutely, as long as they avoid, as you said, some really critical injuries, then they are a Super Bowl contender.
I believe they are too. Now, James Cowbaugh puts in, well, then we get Lawrence, right? It's going to be a lot. We lost Ben last year, and this was still an 8-8 team. So, right. There's a lot on this team. This could have been an 11-5 team. They were 8-5 at one point. Really, they were one win in those last 3 games away from possibly making the playoffs. So it's, this is a team with a lot of pride, and this is not the team that the Miami Dolphins targeted to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick to, because they thought with Ben Roethlisberger going down that they were going to get maybe the number 1 pick overall,
right?
Or a top 5 draft pick. They got a number 18 out of that.
Exactly.
So you still get an 8-8 record, and that team was 0-2 when it happened, and they were 0-3. So they were 8. That was an 8-5 team. Actually, you could really say an 8-6 team after Ben went down. But they were 8-3 before the last 3 games of the season. So that's what they did with other guys in there. So that's something that we do forget about as well. But if you look at losing, you get so much back from a team that went 8-8 last year. There are some great, look what was added, Tony. First of all, let's talk about the 2 major injuries that are coming back. The guys from the 2 major injuries. Of course, we're always talking Ben Roethlisberger, but Stephon Tuitt was a huge injury coming back. What are your thoughts on how Stephon Tuitt just completely lifts the defense?
Oh, we've been saying it for years. When he's healthy and when he's on his game, he looks like one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the NFL. His problem is just staying healthy, and if he can do that as he enters I guess he's late 20s now, maybe he because a lot of the injuries he suffered have been major. So if he can just avoid the bumps and bruises from not that you can avoid the bumps and bruises, but the nagging injuries from here on out, then you have yourself a stud that's probably entering the prime of his career, and we know Cam what Cam means to that defense. And losing Javon Hargrave, you're going to need somebody like Stephon Tuitt to stay healthy all year. So his addition to that defense, I mean, it can only make make that defensive line better than it was last year. And Javon Hargrave was excellent last year.
You do lose Javon Hargrave. And when I'm talking, let me go back to the question, because injury free, that doesn't mean there's going to be bumps and bruises. You might lose a guy for a game, or maybe two, but we had two major season injuries in season-ending injuries in Pittsburgh last year. And you had Juju and James Conner, who were really had nagging injuries for a good part of the year, and that really affected them. So if we know what we have with James Conner, you know that if he is healthy, he's pretty good. He's really good when he's healthy. If a guy like that stays injury free, and you're mixing in guys like Benny Snell Jr., seeing what you have with Anthony McFarland, you've got a good core at running back. Of course, Ben's number one. Ben has to stay healthy here.
Right.
But my question to you is, if you can get 14 to 15 games out of that entire defense and throw in and add in a guy like Chris Wormley, who's a good run stopper, you add in a guy like Alex Highsmith to add some depth behind these guys. And we know how excited people are about Alex Highsmith.
Mm-hmm.
If you do lose a guy like Juju, if he has nagging injuries again, you have two guys in Deontay Johnson and James Washington that, they got a lot of playing time, got a lot of experience, and you throw in the rookie Chase Claypool. And then you look at what you have at tight end. You have an extra guy in Eric Ebron now who could be a superstar if he's healthy. Vance McDonald could be very good if he's healthy. So, and you did not have Minkah Fitzpatrick going into last year at the beginning.
Right.
And you saw what he did in games. So if you were to grade the improvement from this roster right now, from exactly a year ago when we were doing we did a show on Labor Day last year too, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
How much of an improvement is this roster?
Oh, it's improved in so many ways. I mean, you look at last year, who was the number 2 tight end? Was it Xavier Grimble? And then, of course, Zach Gentry, and then even picking up pick up Nick Vannett. I mean, who'd you rather have as your number 2, Eric Ebron or Nick Vannett? It's not even close, right? And so then you're talking about safety depth. Last year at this time it was Cam Kelly, who we were excited about last year. But we know what we have in Sean Davis. We know what they have in Sean Davis as far as what he was able to provide as a starter. He played strong. He played free safety, and he could play the slot. So he's not just a backup, but he could probably utilize him more than they utilized Cam Kelly. So from that standpoint, and then we have to see with Alex Highsmith. We don't know. We haven't seen him play. We don't know what he can do at the pro level yet because we didn't see him in the preseason. But from all accounts, he's definitely an upgrade over, at least from what we hear out of training camp, he's an upgrade over Anthony Chickalo. So I think in a lot of areas, this team has improved, and just having Ben back alone, that's just going to make everything better for everybody on that offense. And you mentioned if Juju gets banged up again, well, just having Ben there is going to be big because he's going to know, he's going to have many more options than just going to one guy, like maybe focusing on one single player, like maybe a younger quarterback would do.
And that is absolutely correct. I think they have upgraded so much. They've lost 2 guys from last year, 2 starters from last year. And that's Javon Hargrave, who you talked about, and Ramon Foster's not there anymore because Ramon was great. I thought Ramon actually had a Pro Bowl season last year. I thought he played that well. So, but what they brought in a lot. And they brought in a guy like Wisniewski, which if Decastro is banged up, Wisniewski's going to, get some action in there.
Right.
If something, and he also gets action if something happens that Pouncey's banged up as well. But
he's valuable, very valuable.
If they can stay away from the injury bug, then they're going to be in very good shape. And that's what I'm feeling really good about. So, Tony, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. I think we all feel pretty good about where the Steelers look if they're injury free. You're going to knock on wood because you don't want them to be. And that's what my wife does. That's really funny. Mm-hmm. But, as far as everything goes, I want to find out from the live chat, are you feeling good about this team if they can stay healthy? Maybe you don't believe they can stay healthy, but do you feel pretty good about them? And let's throw out your questions for the show as well. It's Q&A. This is going to be our last Q&A before we go to the hangover. We want to do our best to answer your questions before we get on out of here. So go ahead and bring it up. Grandelder, some of these names I'm new to, so I'm going to have some problems with it. Grandelder 77B says, man, what about the Josh Dobbs pickup? And we talked about that a little bit earlier. I just think that adds some extra depth to you. You might even see situational stuff too. You might even see Duck and Dobbs go back and forth. That could be a possibility. Tony, could you see them switching off? Because you remember when they used to do that with LJ Ford and Steven Johnson just a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the third quarterback is usually just the emergency quarterback, right? Is that how they're usually not? Are they considered active on game day, or are they just in uniform but inactive in case something happens to the first two? I don't know how that would work, but if you're talking about switching on and off on the active 53-man roster from week to week, yeah, I can see that because you have a guy like Devlin Hodges who has experience and who knows what they might want to do on game day with that.
Absolutely. You never know. Young Boy says he feels great. Liberal Rod is going 13-3 this year.
That's really liberal.
Snowman, hell yeah, go Steelers.
I wonder what conservative Chad would say. 6-10.
Conservative. Oh boy, here we go. Tate Boys is saying 12-4. So Portna asks a question: what is the greatest oversight of combos in Steeler history? I say Malone to Lips.
I'd say Tommy Gunn to Heinz Ward was pretty good for a year. Didn't he have over 100 catches in 2002?
Yeah, he did. And, not just that. Plexico had that many, too. There was 2 seasons that Plexico and Heinz were off by, like, Heinz would beat them by maybe 10 yards and 2-3 catches, but they were both very high. There was one year where they both had 1,300, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they would, but hey, that's Malone to Lips. Malone just had some flashes of brilliance, too. So it was really good.
Well, you mentioned in some past shows that 84-85 period with Lips and Stallworth, and Malone was the quarterback, and they put up some pretty good numbers in those years.
I got to bring this one up because he might have said it earlier and I didn't see it, but my buddy Mark Holbrook just gave us a black and gold heart and said Super Bowl, and I love it. But the reason I'm bringing up Mark too is he always puts in Steelers Nation, Idaho. So there you go. Steelers Nation, Idaho. I love it. Kobe. I haven't seen that name in a while. Kobe, welcome back. Yes, almost even if they're not healthy, we have great depth at safety, corner, O-line, D-line, wide receiver, and running back. Really, we could lose a starter at all positions except quarterback and linebacker. And I think, I'm actually comfortable with the depth at outside linebacker. It's inside linebacker that I feel that's your biggest depth. You really need to hope for the health of Devin Bush and Vince Williams because those guys are very important there. You're going to see a lot with Marcus Allen, though. Marcus Allen's going to be there, playing in that role possibly as well. And it makes you wonder if they're looking at Sean Davis to do some things like that as well. So that could be a possibility.
Well,
here's an interesting question from Steelers Pittsburgh. If Colquitt passes the COVID test, will he take the last spot on the practice squad? Tony, I'll let you take that first because I have a strong feeling. I have a strong answer for that.
Well, I mean, if they're working out somebody like him, I would assume he would take Jordan Berry's spot, not the practice squad. I mean, why would they even have a guy like that if they're not going to send him to the 53-man roster? Because didn't they sign Corliss Waitman to the practice squad?
Yeah, Waitman could kick too. He could place kick in a pinch if something happens. And Dave Schofield was talking about that yesterday, how that's why he's a valuable signing to keep on the practice squad. Because if something happens to either one of those guys, if it's a COVID test, what have you. Look, if Colquitt comes in, he's a 15-year vet. He's coming in and Jordan Berry doesn't have a job if that's what happens. Now, this whole Colquitt thing might be a possibility that it might not happen because of numbers. He might have a certain number in mind and might not come in. So I don't know if that's a given yet. I mean, he's come in, but we haven't heard anything as of yet. Now, here's the other thing. It was reported today, and we saw it all over Twitter. And we have a Slack channel where we get messages back and forth. It was all a buzz today, Tony. Like I just kept hearing ding, 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 ding.
Yeah,
ding.
me too.
And when it came out, and I love it because I'm like, oh, what's happening? Because we got that yesterday, and we're like, things kept happening, and we were reporting on it fast. And if you notice, BTSC had it on the website just like that. So I'm gonna really, really tout those guys. They were absolutely amazing getting that stuff out really fast. And so when the news came out today that it looks like the Steelers aren't done. They said that they might be signing somebody, or they might go ahead and it's up to interpretation, but there's some money to spend now. There's maybe about $9 million that might go to an extension, or it might go to another player coming in. So could it be another inside linebacker, Tony? Could it be something like that? I want Todd Davis from Denver.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw it with the Sean Davis signing yesterday. You never know. Sometimes, we often wring our hands during free agency and during the draft. Oh, they didn't do enough, but it's the big picture. And look at a few years ago when Joe Hayden became available at the last minute and they signed him. So you never know. I mean, that freeing up that money, who knows what they're going to do?
JJ52 asked, how many sacks and turnovers do you predict for week 1, Tony?
Sacks, I'm going to go with 4. I think they're going to get 4 because it's young quarterback, young offense. As far as the
bad offensive line,
that's right. And as far as turnovers, I'll go with 2.
I don't think we're seeing some predictions there. I think it is going to be a win, but I'm thinking it's going to be more like a 9 or 10 point win. So that's
you just never know. We haven't had a chance to see them really all summer, so it's hard to say.
There was a question about Grand Elder 77B says, think Tuitt might take a pay cut, or has he already? He did last year, I believe. He did his extension last year. Wes, my man Wes says sacks in week 1, 9. Wow, he's feeling pretty good. And Wes is looking at taking over doing grades this year on BTSC. And wow, your grades are going to be A's if you see that for week 1. That would be absolutely amazing. Who's going to score the first touchdown of the year? Asked Dusk Thunder 9, Tony.
Well, just to mess with Wes, I'm going to say Jalen Samuels.
Here we go. That's great. The last question I have for anybody, Tony. You excited? Are you ready for some football, Tony?
I was watching Texas State against SMU on Saturday, and I watched every last second of it. I can't wait for some football. I just can't wait.
I guess we should answer that question. Let's see. Ryan Kellerman saying Ebron. Ebron gets the first TD. I think the first rushing touchdown is James Conner. And now Wes is now boycotting brunch with Tony.
All right.
So it's Pop-Tarts for Wes.
That means I'm hot. I'm getting some heat.
James Kelboss says Ray McLeod kickoff return. There you go. Anthony DeTora says 6 sacks week 1. So we are going to wrap up everything right here, and really excited. Next week, when we talk to you, we are going to be talking to you. We're going to have the Steeler pregame. So, but when we have our show next time, it's going to be the hangover, and the hangover it's going to be after the game sometime. We're still figuring that part out. So stay tuned to BTSC, whether it's behindthesteelcurtain.com or on the podcast platform, as we're going to pump you up with all the information on all the shows. It's everything's in a little bit of flux. We figured it out, but it's still all confusing. So we'll get it out to you, because that Monday night game makes things really interesting and really different. It's a 7:10 starting time next week. So next week at this time, man, we're getting ready for some Monday night football. Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, no fans in the stands, but plenty listening to it on the radio and watching on TV. So check it out. Remember, we can't do this all without you. So we appreciate each and every one of you. And this is looks like the last Q&A, Tony. Are you feeling a little sad because it's one last Roddy?
I am feeling sad, but I know we'll be back again next year. That's the great thing about BTSC. We're around the clock, 24/7, 365.
You got it. We've got to answer one last question, because Snowman Robin Masters put in a $2 tip for us. What's going on with David Decastro? That's been really hush. Mike Tomlin said the other day that it looks like they're going to know more this week going into the game on what's going on with his lower body injury. Tony, do you know anything about that?
No, just what the last I heard was from what Tomlin said on Friday at his press conference, and he said that he wasn't able to go on last Friday, and that's pretty close. That's cutting it close as far as him being ready for next Monday. So I don't know, but that brings us back to the great depth. Signing a guy like Stephon Wisniewski. I mean, I'm assuming Decastro won't be out for any length of time, or for a lengthy period of time. So if you have to miss a game or two with injury, then that's where a guy like Wisniewski, that's where he earns his money.
It looks like I agree with you completely, and it looks like it's going to be a late in the week decision. But that's probably why you saw J.C. Hassenauer, the center, put on the 53-man roster as a backup. And you could probably look at the fact that you will have Wisniewski. If something happens, Wisniewski's going to start. But if there's something happens to Pouncey, then you have a guy to bring into that spot too, because he's your backup center as well. So, Tony, I can't wait to talk to you next week when we're hungover, and hopefully it's a good hangover. Hopefully it's one of those Girls Gone Wild hangovers, and not like, oh my gosh, what just happened hangovers. So with that being said, thank you all. We'll see you soon. Tony, just when you think you know all the answers, said my good friend Roddy Piper.
We keep changing the question. Have a great off season or regular season.
There you